Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Stallions Run. Of course, your host, Buck, as always, with my co host, Scout. Scout, the Stallions, they are going to the UFL Championship. I mean, so far, what's your thoughts on, I guess before we deep dive into the game versus Michigan, what's kind of your general thoughts as we head into the championship itself?
Yeah. Well, like championship, great to see again. Obviously, our third year going to a championship game. This year, obviously, it had the ups and downs. We had some quarterback back and forth issues. We had some injuries at running back. We had some, not necessarily injuries, but we had some back and forth with receivers, especially in our depth receiver wise. So like especially offensively, we've had a ton of turnover, and on defense, obviously, we've lost a few injuries early on. Then we lost Scooby Wright and all that. So hey, it's been a battle. We've had to fight for every single yard practically. But we're here now. We're here now. We beat the Panthers,
Yeah.
and hey, now we have the Browns.
Yeah. So I guess let's get right into the game versus Michigan. Straight out of the gate was not a good time as a Stallions fan. I mean, basically for the first half of the game, it was Michigan, 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 Michigan. And it seemed like every single mistake that everyone on the Stallions can make was happening. I mean, from my perspective, I was basically halfway through the first. I want to ask you in a second how you thought, but like I was like, this it's over. Like this is
Hmm.
gonna be a blowout, and we're gonna get embarrassed in the playoffs. What about you?
Yeah, Michigan, they started the game scoring 5 times in a row, which I do not think was how we envisioned that going. Obviously, we
Yeah,
turned the ball over on downs for first drive, but it was just, back and forth. I called it, I think I had the best name for it, a puke and rally, because it was, you had to puke out everything that happened in the first half. And I know we scored, but for the first, 25 minutes of the game, 20 minutes of the game, we were getting destroyed. At a point, I think was it 18-3 at a point?
it was 18
I'm
and
pretty sure it
three.
got to that level. Yeah. And I mean, hey, like we are very glad that we stopped them at, in the red zone so many times and had them kick a field goal. Because if they scored even, I think, one more touchdown, I don't think we would have had the wherewithal to, come back and win. But hey, we ended up doing it. And I mean, first quarter, first half wise, it was awful. I know obviously Jake Bates had an insane game, but it was back and forth and back and forth. It was just like we were getting haymakered and we weren't doing anything on offense. And for me, it was like I know throughout the whole game our third down was terrible, but it was rough. We actually did end up having more penalty yards than the Houston game last year. We had 11 penalties for 111 yards. I believe we only had 108 or 109 in the Houston game last year. And it was sloppy, bad for the first half, but hey, we pulled it together right at the end. It was very reminiscent, and I know, like, as a Jaguars fan, I make all these Jaguars comparisons, but to the Chargers Jags game, because like the Jags couldn't get anything going in that game, and then all of a sudden, like, hey, they came roaring back right before halftime, and it became an okay game. Now, I will say, even to that point, we do this thing where we keep pushing the limit on, hey, how far can we come back, and then something happens and we slip up. So like it
Yeah, I
was
mean, I'm going to kind of jump in right here. I think that's a
yeah
point that kind of we need to see. Don't let that happen in the championship because that's exactly what we saw happen against San Antonio. We kind of said,
yeah
la 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 la, we're a second half team, and then look how that turned out. That gave us the only loss to the regular season. So
yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of hoping that we got a lot of the mistakes out of our system with that first half because I don't know that I'm still trying to figure out which one's worse. I'm trying to figure out, was that DC game pre-rain performance the worst, or is maybe week 10, or was this the worst performance? Because I don't know, all three of those have their own special moment of
Yeah.
some of the worst performances of the Stallions so far this season.
Yeah.
But I guess kind of let's go into that second half now. Again, it's 18-12. Stallions get the ball. All of a sudden, it feels like momentum is starting to go back on the Stallions' side. I guess what was your thoughts, especially about halfway through the third quarter when Matt Corral was switched with it for instead of Adrian Martinez for the starter position?
Yeah, at first, I was not supporting the whole, let's chant Matt Corral, out of respect for Adrian, out of respect for the team as a whole. But I do think he needed to come in. I think Adrian got a little rattled, and when you're rattled, it's kind of hard to come out unless if somebody else wants to take the mantle. And I will say CJ Marable did a great job of providing that spark, but I just don't think that anybody was going to get Martinez out of that like rattled state in that period. That being said, and we'll talk about this later, I'm not sure how that does for the game next week, but yeah, but it was just because even like I'm looking at the drive summary here, right? And it's like second half starts, we get the 50-yard return from Kane, and I'm like, first off, Dion Kane, I get why we didn't want him to return a lot of them because we didn't want him to get hurt. But the drop off from Deion Kane to Gary Jennings to Ricky Person Jr. is visible. Like, and I'm not saying Ricky
Yeah.
Person Jr. or Gary Jennings are bad returners, but I mean
Again,
you're
two
knocking
great players. Ricky is probably the best RB on the team. He's right
yes.
there with CJ in my opinion.
Yes, but you're knocking 10, 15 yards off of every return by not having Dion back there. And I know you can't really put Dion at punt returner. You have to put Omari out there or Gary Jennings or somebody that, can just get up and go a little better. But like, ugh. And then you put him in, and then you threw a pick, and I'm like, hey, come on now. Like I didn't even get to my seat in time to watch the pick go, because I was getting a Powerade or something. And but then we got the ball back, and then we gave the ball away again, and then like the third quarter was just awful, and
Insane.
like we scored right at the end, but. It was a sickos moment. Hashtag sickos or
Yeah.
sickos committee. But it was wild. But I think the play of the game, obvious, and I don't think anyone will contest me here, was that blocked field goal. Um,
Yeah.
and I know that the blocked field goal in the end didn't count for much, but that's the difference between oh we need a touchdown to oh we need just a field goal to win, or not to win, but
Yeah.
to tie. And the fact that we actually stop them there, you get the field position, you get better field position at least, right? And then on top of the better field position, you also get, like momentum. And then you put the dagger in them, you twist the blade, and that they were out for the count after that. Like I don't
Yeah.
think anybody was going to come back after you're down. You were down 6 on a close game. Now you're out down 13 on a blowout. So,
Yeah.
or not blowout, but you know what I mean. So,
Yeah. But one thing I do want to mention, I mean, I'm going to be honest for Panthers fans, that blocked field goal. Let's be honest, that was basically Jake just basically having a bad slip.
yeah,
Because did you see the replay? Because he
yeah.
basically just the turf monster got him, just a bad slip of the cleats right there. And who
Which,
knows what happens if he makes that kick? You know,
yeah.
that's kind of like you know. But
And to me
anyway,
too,
the oh, go ahead.
but he missed 2 of them again. Like, because he made all those at the start, and then he missed. Like, miss. Or not miss, was it? He only missed twice. But you know what I mean? Like, he
Yeah,
made the 4 to start, and then he missed 2 after. And in a game with such, like, momentum like that was a big deal, especially that second miss, because that second miss kind of, it led to, did it lead to the Like, hold on. Let me, because I'm pretty sure it did kind of lead to the comeback. Yeah, so Birmingham scores a touchdown right after a Michigan field goal. This is before halftime. And they miss the field goal, and then Birmingham scores another field goal, right? So it's like, that's a
yeah,
6 point swing right there. And then you got, the 10 point swing beforehand. In a game you only won by 13, like that's big time plays. And
Yeah.
it's insane to me that this game came. And like I know a lot of people said it, and I'm pretty sure they even mentioned on UFL today, on ESPN that it's the team of destiny or whatever. Like this is only what happens to a few different teams. But I'm like, this is kind of normal. And I will say
Yeah.
also kind of shout out here to Corey Chamberlain because he did have a much more aggressive, or whoever's game planning on defense, much more aggressive defensive scheme. That they try to put them in traps, and try to make them make mistakes rather than get beat themselves. But it was a lot better in my opinion. I'm not sure if everyone felt that way. I know, like in general, there was some back and forth. I know some people really pointed out that our offense kind of wasn't that great and our defense, did what they needed to. But it's wild. But yeah, but in a game with 8 turnovers, to score 31 points, to only allow 18, like
Mhm.
um, it's a big deal. And yes, we did give up 4 sacks, but we also got 5. I believe if we get 30, we're very close to passing a like record of spring football years, or like over the year sacks or something like that. I forgot who had mentioned that. But yeah, but it was a sloppy game. Glad we came out with victory. It was almost, and I think my dad said this, it was almost like a rain game in clear as a day. You know what I'm saying? Like all the fumbles,
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
interceptions, all the turnovers. It was like if you just put a rain filter over it, it would make so much more sense.
Yeah.
And
Well, anyway, so but speaking of rainy days, when we were talking about some opposing fans, of St. Louis, man, what's your thoughts? The St. Louis Battlehawks. Everyone was gunning. Everyone looked like they were going to be gunning to potentially host that championship game at home. Instead, it's going to be a neutral site game. The San Antonio Brahmas will be facing the Birmingham Stallions in the UFL Championship.
yeah, there's not a lot that you can go by and say for the Brahmas game, or the Brahmas Battlehawks game. Like San Antonio took the lead early, but it should not have been such a big lead. Like 14-3 at like and then they just kept pushing it
Yeah.
further and further and further and further. And then the worst part, in my opinion, the worst part was that St. Louis didn't get that aggressive on offense until the very end. And then like uh, when it's mathematically impossible to win a game, that's when you know you've messed up. Like when I understand pushing the limit, you want to score the touchdown first. But if you score a field goal with 59 seconds left, because that's what it would have been, and then they
Hmm.
had already wasted a timeout beforehand, or they could have just kicked the field goal with even like 2 minutes left, and then just played the field. But if you score a field goal and then you go for the 4th and 12 and you convert it, because you're one of the few teams that's actually been consistently good at converting that 4th and 12, then you actually have a shot. Like and it's insane to me that they just, fell so flat there at the end, because I truly thought that it was going to be, a longer game. I know that San Antonio, they, forming an offense to perfection at the end there, but um, St. Louis, they got some answers, or they're not
Yeah,
answers. They
I'll
got some
tell you
questions
exactly
to
what
answer.
happened. St. Louis got out coached. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, people who keep like I'm sorry. I have to say this. Anthony Beck is probably he's basically someone who's riding off the coattails of his players. I mean, seriously, like been what? Okay, so the first season, raw cause law, and then what do you get? No playoffs. You go into the playoffs. Oh yeah, we're gonna host. We're gonna host. We're gonna beat you guys so bad. I mean, at what point do some coaches heads start to roll? And it's not just like, oh well, gee shucks, we'll get him next time, guys. I mean,
yeah,
imagine if Skip Holt said that. The Stallions fan base would not be happy about that. So all I gotta
yeah,
say, St. Louis fans, don't be happy with mediocrity. That's all
yeah.
I'll say with that.
And here's another thing because I saw over and over again that though the rest of this, the rest of that, there was no yardage discrepancy in the Battlehawks game. It was 25 each. In the Stallions game, there was an 81 yardage discrepancy towards the Panthers. Like the Panthers had, negative 81 yards compared to the Stallions. And you just like
Mhm.
the whole stat sheet. Like I know, the game ain't played on paper. Hashtag Trevor Lawrence. But 2 for 11 on third down. Right? Not great. 4.3 yards per play, which would, normally that's an okay day. Okay, but then your opponent gets 7.2 yards per play, which is really bad just to give up. And then on top of that, you cause one sack according to the stat book, right? But it was right at the line. There was no yardage lost on that play. And you only get 3 tackles for loss, whereas the other team on the other side gets 9 tackles for loss. And also, they ended up getting 50 yards of total yardage when it comes to lost on sacks and tackles for loss. So it's just one of those things. Like it was a pain to watch that game in general. Like it was such, and I know several players like in the league commented on it too, but it was like the time, like they just wasted so much time, and then Smith missed the field goal, which
Yeah.
was a really deep field goal. Like shout out my guy Schmidt, but like it's just you can't get so far and then cause something like sorry, you can't get so far in a season and then all of a sudden, oh, we're gonna, like flunk it at home, and to a team that you swept this year and beat last year. But yeah, we can move on.
All right. All right. So let's go right into things. Championship game. Of course, Brahmas gave the Stallions their only loss of the season. So right now, Scott, I'll ask you in a second, what's kind of your main key to defeat the Brahmas and win that championship? For me, use Ricky Pearson Jr., use CJ Marable, run that ball against San Antonio. That is your key to winning. We didn't do enough of that last time. We kept trying to have Adrian make throws that, let's be honest, that San Antonio defense was able to stop quickly. Run the ball. I think we have a very different game this go around. Scout?
Uh, Look, I don't know. I don't think I agree totally. Running the ball, yes, but I also think we need to feature Jay Sternberger a lot more than we have. And that might sound
I agree.
crazy to some, but I think we we have such a great group of tight ends that it just sucks. Also, oh my God, I ran into George Thomas, our tight end, number 81, Thomas, his family. And I was like, I tried to start a conversation, and then I couldn't remember his first name, so I just said Thomas, and I probably look like such a dweeb. Anyways, but yeah, great group of tight ends, love them all. And we don't use them at all, like maybe 5 times a game. And I'm like, that's not, like, throw it to the tight end, 10, 20, 30 times a game, for all I care. If it works, it works. And the Brahmas, especially, if we use them within 10, 15 yards, I don't think that they can stop as much as you think that they will. Because one thing that we tried so hard, and I think you would agree here, is that in the first Promise game, we tried the 20-yard pass, 25-yard pass. And they're a team that's built to stop that. And it's in every single game that you can see that, especially when they play the Showboats. They literally baited all these 25, 30-yard throws, and they were getting picks or getting stops off them. And I'm like, if you just West Coast style, it's the 49ers in the 80s or 90s, just throw it to the tight end.
Yeah.
We'll win the game. It'll be simple. And then on defense, just be more aggressive. Don't give out 15-yard outs like they're candy. Like I know all this is easier said than done, right? We're just armchair quarterbacks here, but come on, like it's if you have proved to us that you can beat any team in this league, and if you cannot beat this team this Sunday, it just makes no sense. And it, mm. And it could just be one of those mental things, right? It could be one of those mental things that the team in yellow or blue or gray or whatever the color they're wearing, that team is just better than us or whatever, right? It could just be a mental thing. And to me, that also makes no sense. I'm like, that team, did they make the playoffs last year? Or wait, did they actually? I don't know.
Yes.
Whatever.
Mm,
Yeah,
no,
they
they
did. My
didn't.
fault.
They didn't.
Or we didn't care about that league last year. Anyways, but you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like
okay, yeah.
this is their first time in the rodeo. And if you're gonna prove yourself, you gotta win. You gotta beat them. And to be the man, you gotta beat the man. And currently, we haven't beat them yet. So
All right. All right. So right now, the big question for a lot of fans is right now what to do with Adrian Martinez. Today, he won the MVP award for the regular season of the UFL. In my opinion, for what he did during the regular season, absolutely deserved. So I wanted to just quickly say congratulations to him once again. However, there's been a big question after the performance Matt Corral had in the playoff game after having to bench Martinez. What do you think is the best choice for the starter position, Scout? For me personally, it is going to stay Adrian Martinez. However, the moment you see a little bit of trouble starting to brew around in that pocket, you absolutely switch back in Matt Corral and you go with him for the rest of the game. What about you, Scout?
look, okay, I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. It's gotta be Matt Corral. And the only reason I say that is because I also said Matt Corral in the game against San Antonio the first time. Adrian Martinez, for the first part of the year, his biggest issue was not being able to roll out. He fixed it for a couple weeks, and now it's back. And if we want to win the game, we're gonna have to, cause some extra improv. The Just think about last year, right? This is one of the best defenses we're going to play this year. And no, I'm not saying this is mainly for Jaron Horton. No, I'm not saying that the San Antonio defense is anywhere near the Pittsburgh Mauler defense last year. Because I think the Pittsburgh Mauler defense was one of the best defenses in spring football, past 3 years. Anyways,
Mhm.
but they are one of the best defenses in the league currently. And if you're gonna get through them, you're gonna have to improv. You're gonna have to make some plays that just makes the defense coordinator just slam his notebook down, right? Like it's so critical that we find ways to make plays. And I think either of them will do it, right? Like I'll support whoever gets out there. But if I had to pick one at this point, it would probably be Matt Corral. And I'd probably have some design QB runs in there, and I'd probably, have some backup plays. And really, on either one, I'd be making sure that the other is ready because it could be game time, and then first quarter rolls by, and we're like, hey, we don't need to have this guy in there. Now, that being said, you got to roll with him a little bit. Like, I don't mind Skip rolling with Adrian even into the third quarter. Because, football is a motion game, it is a method game, it is a motivation game. So if he gets random motivation at halftime and then he balls it out third quarter, that's great. But clearly, he was still kind of in that essence of I'm not feeling too good, not feeling right, and we moved to Matt. So you never know.
All right. All right. Well, that will be. Well, hang on. Actually, one more thing. What do you think? Who do you think the winner of the game is, and who do you think will going to be the final score? For me, I'm going to take Birmingham. I think it's still going to be close. I'm very scared still the San Antonio team. I'll be very honest. I'm going to say that it is 30 Birmingham, 18 San Antonio.
It's gonna be 22-21 Birmingham. First
That close, huh? All
three
right.
first 3-point play that Birmingham has converted ever for the win.
Okay. All right.
Book it.
Well. Okay. Okay. Well, that will be it for this week's episode of Stallions Run. Potentially next week we'll be here celebrating a championship or potentially in tears. So, but until then, Scout, where can people find you on social media?
My fault. You can find me at Southern Charm SP, Southern Charm Sports everywhere else. If we're not there, I'm sorry. And yeah,
All right. And you can find me on social media on X/Twitter at StallionsUFM. Not too hard, just type in StallionsUFM and you'll find me right there. I do kind of thoughts on what's going on throughout the world of the UFL and more. So we'll see you guys next week.